What do dreams about chickens mean? If you see in your night vision images of chickens, you may be thinking that you've had a positive dream or you have a night vision or night symbols that you can easily ignore. After all, these are chickens that we're talking about, the exact same chickens that you order through a McDonald's drive through. So, what's the big deal? Well, the truth is, if chickens are the main focus of your dreams, your subconscious is actually trying to tell you some important themes in your life that you may have been overlooking, ignoring, or feel that you're just simply too busy for. Um, Usually, with these types of themes, they tend to simmer under the surface, and if you don't pay them any mind, they soon start to bubble. And if you continue to ignore them, they start to accumulate, and you start to lose control. That's how personal issues usually start. They don't just blow up in your face. They don't blindside you to the point that you can't ignore them anymore. They have to start somewhere. So keep this in mind when trying to get to the bottom of your chicken dreams. It all depends on the context. Um, what does it mean to eat chicken in your dreams? The first thing that you have to pay attention to is what you're doing with the chicken. If you just see chickens that are not dressed, meaning they haven't been slaughtered or packed for cooking, this means something completely different from when you see a plate of fried chicken or chicken parmesan. Um, when you see yourself eating chicken, this indicates that you are in the process of realizing the full extent of a decision that you made. This did not come out of nowhere. There's a process that you have to go through. And a lot of the times, you think that not much has changed. You just made a decision, you made a choice, and this is the kind of thing that you do on a day to day basis. But in reality, you are beginning to understand that your small choices do add up. And whatever you may be frustrated about or you're happy about in your life have to come from somewhere. They're part of a chain of events. And when you see yourself eating chicken, you are connecting with this inner consciousness of this process. It's not full blown yet to the point that you can actually control the process or whatever it is that you desire in terms of outcomes. You can basically cause to happen. You're not there yet, but you can see the connection. This is a big step forward for a lot of people, and it seems that this is such a mundane image. After all, you're just seeing yourself eating chicken. Maybe you ordered through a drive-through, or you went to a sit-down restaurant. It's the kind of thing that you see play out all the time, but it has a deep meaning. For that to happen, a lot of things have to take place. The same way a chicken starts with a chick, it starts out in a farm, all sorts of things have to happen, everything has to fall into place. The same goes with your decisions. So the key here is to realize that your decisions do not exist in a vacuum. They don't just happen to you, they don't come out of nowhere. By being more mindful of what happens before, what happens during, and what takes place after, you will be more able to reach or achieve the outcomes that you desire. This is power, and it all starts with consciousness. What does the dream of chicken feathers mean? Feathers in a dream could represent beauty, majesty, strength, as well as safety and security. It has a lot of connotations regarding potential, but for it to fully realized, to be fully realized in your life, you have to put in effort. The same way that the chicken has to grow from a chick for it to have healthy, full feathers that you could use. The same applies to your dreams. You have to nurture them. You can't just hang on to them like extra baggage. It doesn't work that way. For them to blossom into things that you can see, hear, touch, taste, and smell, you have to feed them. You have to cultivate them, and they have to be part of your day-to-day routine. The same as chicken feathers have a lot of utility. You also have to use the power of your aspirations to not only motivate you but strengthen you in the long process that is needed to turn potential into reality. Again, just like the previous interpretation involving chickens, process has a lot to do with it. What does it mean to dream of chicken eggs? If your chicken dream visions focus primarily on the eggs that they produce, your subconscious is trying to communicate to you the potential that you have. And I'm not just talking about your talent, skills, and trainability. Those are big factors, and you're probably already aware of them to some degree. Instead, I'm talking more about the potential you bring into your interaction with other people. There's a part of you that is more than happy to just be another face in the crowd. You're thinking that you just don't want to rock the boat because you don't want people to be mad at you or to somehow disapprove of you. So you just go along to get along. This really is too bad because you have a lot of potential for pushing things to the next level. And unfortunately, just like with making an omelet, you have to break some eggs. You have to step on other people's egos. And this is quite uncomfortable for a lot of people. And this is fully understandable. But if you are frustrated in terms of your involvement with teams or the kind of validation you get from other people, speak your mind more often. You'd be surprised as to how much more respect you can get when you show your other aspects of your identity. There's a lot of times you're suppressing yourself. I'm not saying that you're actively lying to people or putting on a mask, but you're holding back. And you think that this is going to help whatever groups you're a member of. It doesn't, because something is missing. Either a sense of urgency or a badly needed perspective. Whatever the case may be, by being more honest and sincere and sharing your personal truth more often, you actually contribute more to your friendships, your relationships, as well as your work environment. And this makes you, believe it or not, a more valuable person. To put it another way, don't be afraid to be the asshole from time to time. What does it mean to dream of chicken eggshells? You probably have heard of the saying, walking on eggshells. When you see chicken eggshells in your dream and they seem to be the central focus of your dream, try to think about uncomfortable or unpleasant topics, arrangements, or realities in your life. Maybe somebody in your family is an alcoholic, but nobody's got the courage to tell that person straight to their face that they have a problem and that their problem is negatively affecting those around them. I know that's an extreme example, but we do tend to walk on eggshells regarding sensitive topics or certain people in our lives. Do you think that the doing so makes things better? A little bit more honesty and in a more sincere approach can do wonders, because people will not know that they have a problem until they're told about the effect of what they're doing on other people. They obviously don't care about the effect of what they're doing when it comes to themselves. But when you speak up and you tell others that you are impacted a certain way, this doesn't make you a selfish person. This doesn't make you the person who is unnecessarily rocking the boat. In fact, you're doing that person a big favor. So do yourself a big favor and speak out more often. Know when you are walking on eggshells and decide consciously to stop doing that. I know this isn't easy, especially if you're used to it, especially if you and your family or your group of friends have built this infrastructure of coping mechanisms around an unpleasant reality. But in many cases, it is precisely when you destroy that infrastructure, much like cracking eggshells, that you free that person. It could be the big break that they're looking for. Of course, they're not going to react all that possibly in the beginning, because they too, like you, are have grown accustomed to people just being in denial. But pretty soon they would realize that that was the big break that they were looking for. It's funny how life often works that way. What does it mean to dream of roasted or fried chicken? As I mentioned earlier, process is a key part of life. For you to enjoy that tasty chunk of fried chicken on your plate, a lot of things have to happen. When the focus is on roasting, the focus of your dream involves a timeline regarding the process. Please understand that change takes time. It takes time precisely because people have to emotionally change. This is the most difficult part of any kind of personal evolution or development. A lot of people think that it's just a matter of things lining up and getting access to resources. While that may be true, the bigger issue is whether you are going to give yourself the time to grow into the person that you could become. Because life usually doesn't happen according to the schedules that we set in our minds. As the old saying goes, life is what happens when you're making other plans. So be ready to be patient. Be ready to put in the time. Open your mind to the possibility, and this is a very real possibility, that there will be lots of twists and turns and ins and outs and ups and downs when it comes to that road to change that you plan to get on. Life is not this easy highway that we just decide to get on, and soon enough we get from point A to point B. If only things were that easy, but they're not. Not only are you dealing with your own internal resistance to change, which is challenging enough, but you also have to deal with other people. They have other plans. There are other realities out there. So give yourself the time. Don't rush it, and don't punish yourself unnecessarily because things don't develop as quickly as you had hoped. Thank you for watching this video from exploreyourdreamlife.com. Please click the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. We appreciate your support. If you would like a custom and personalized dream interpretation, please make your request in the comment section. What does it mean to dream of feeding chickens? What if I told you that chickens are omnivorous, but they can be quite nasty carnivores? A lot of us have this rustic image of chickens. We feed them corn and they cluck contentedly. There's even a rooster in the background. In the morning, the rooster crows. And we have this happy image of chickens. But did you know that in mass broiler production plants, and I'm talking about basically chicken growing factories, so to speak, chickens are so vicious that they would peck each other to death. They only need to see a speck of blood or something red on the head of a fellow chicken, and it's lights out for that chicken. It's brutal. I bring this up because when you see images of you feeding chicken, you have to pay close attention to your normal tendency to sabotage yourself. Remember, chickens um, tend to relate to the greater issue or greater motif or theme of personal change, and more specifically, the process of personal change. We can all understand and wrap our heads around what we should be doing. In fact, if you stop and take stock of your life, you can easily come up with a long list of what you should be doing on a day-to-day basis. Most of us could. The problem is we are so wrapped up in the things that we think we must be doing, or the things that are absolutely necessary, that we simply do not have enough time or willpower for the things that would truly take our lives to the next level. We're, put in another way, we're so busy majoring in the minors that there's really no energy left for stuff that would truly improve our lives. This is our reality. This is what we have to deal with. And when you see yourself feeding chickens, your subconscious is telling you that you have to feed the process correctly. You have to have the right assumptions. And unfortunately, the assumptions that we often give ourselves lead to self doubt. And if we're not careful, it gets even worse until we sabotage ourselves. What limiting beliefs do you believe in? Do you believe that for you to get something, somebody else has to get less? That's a limiting belief. Do you believe that the best has already been taken and all you can do is to fight over the scraps that are left over? That's a limiting belief. You have to be completely honest with yourself regarding what you truly believe about yourself and your place in this universe on a day-to-day basis. Most people don't bother to do this, so that no matter how awesome their ideas may be of things that they should do, they never get around to doing it because their limiting beliefs restrict them to a set of activities that don't really move them forward. Seriously. These activities just make sure that they make it to the next day. Barely. So they're scraping by with all this potential, with all this love to give, with all this amazing dreams and hopes, and they're struggling day to day. Does this sound familiar to you? Can you relate? If so, you have a lot more power over your situation than you care to realize. And a lot of this has to do with translating or converting your must-do list into your should-do list. Start slow. Again, it's all about the process. Feed yourself the right information. Maybe practice mindfulness and then one affirmation. Once it becomes a reality in your life, start with 2 affirmations. It can be a slow feeding process, but the key is to be aware that this is a process and be mindful of what you are feeding yourself so you don't sabotage yourself and you convert as much of your day-to-day willpower into things that you should do. What does it mean to dream of petting a white chicken? When you see yourself petting a white chicken, your main focus is on the chicken and its calm demeanor. You are communicating with your tendency to create your reality. We all create our realities, but unfortunately, the way we do it is very muddled, ham fisted, and fumbling. And it's no surprise that a lot of us are frustrated. A lot of us feel that our best years are behind us. A lot of us feel that we're not living up to our fullest potential. Who is to blame? Well, this is a touchy subject because the blame lies squarely with us. We made the wrong choices in terms of actual decisions as well as habitual emotional states. Believe it or not, how you're feeling right now is a choice. And when you pet a white chicken, you are subconsciously connecting with your ability to start with a clean slate, like the color white. It's it's blank. It's a state of zero. We all have this ability. But the problem is the best we can do is this muddled image, this cloud of smoke, confusion, distraction. So what happens? On a day-to-day basis, instead of laying and hatching eggs of potential that symbolize our dreams, hopes, and aspirations, we run around like chickens with our heads cut off. We suffer from internal panic, which manifests itself into a state of despair, numbness, boredom, routine, and a sense of purposelessness. None of this is good, but we're so used to it that we can't even see that there is something better out there. It's kind of like being trapped in that cave that Plato was talking about in one of his most famous expositions. He was saying that people can get so trapped into their own narrow way of thinking that they confuse those shadows made against the wall with reality. So when they finally see the sun and they try to communicate with other people, they're seen as crazy. We do the same thing with ourselves. We settle. We wear spiritual straitjackets. When you see yourself petting a white chicken in your dream, your subconscious is trying to communicate to you a very powerful truth. Do not be afraid of zero, of starting over again, of looking at things based on first principles. What does it mean to dream of dead chickens? One of the most horrific night visions you can ever imagine involves looking around you, and all you see are heaps of dead chickens. They can be white chickens or brown and black chickens. It doesn't matter. Regardless of color, regardless of location, you're surrounded by dead chickens. Usually, when this nighttime vision appears, it's incomplete. Because if you actually walked into a chicken farm and you see that amount of dead chickens, believe me, it's going to be very uncomfortable because the stink is going to get to you. But in your dreams, you probably wouldn't smell this thing. All you see is the image of the death of those chickens. Your subconscious is trying to communicate to you. Your deep and profound cluelessness regarding how life actually evolves and plays out around you. This usually happens when we're so wrapped up into our own ego that we suffer from a very debilitating or even paralyzing form of idealism. We think to ourselves that we have this clear idea of how the world should be. We know we're right. So it's no surprise that we're constantly frustrated by other people because they don't get it. They don't understand how things are because we've had this figured out in our heads. How can these people who are normally intelligent fail to understand, fail to see what I'm seeing? You have to break out of your ego when you see dead chickens in your dream. That is the main message of this potent night vision because you are clueless to the process and it's piling up and it's going to cause the death of your own dreams because you are so wrapped up in yourself and so wedded to your ideas of how things should be and how people should act and how people should treat you that you have lost sight of the process, that you get out what you put in, that you have a lot of say in how people respond to you, and the best way to convert people, so to speak, is to be the change that you want to see in the world. How can you demand honesty? I'm talking rhetorically now. How can you demand honesty when you yourself lie, cheat, and steal? Maybe by getting rid of hypocrisy, at least to a certain degree in your life, you will start seeing positive change. But people don't get this. And all they see is the death, decay, destruction. And it's all projected outwards. It's other people's problem. There's nothing wrong with me. It's the world's problem. So you keep scanning the scene around you symbolically, and all you see is these pile of dead chickens, piles of dead processes, piles of dead potential. But in reality, what you're seeing on the outside in your dream is a mirror to what's inside. Start there. Start there. What does it mean to dream of raw chicken? The big difference between seeing dead carcass, the dead chickens, is that those chickens are basically useless. I mean, I say that in a very blunt and crude way. You can't eat them, at the very least, because they're in the process of decaying. They're basically agricultural refuse. Contrast this to chickens that have been slaughtered, dressed, meaning their feathers have been plucked and their guts have been ripped out, and they are prepared for the market. They're still complete chickens, but you can then chop them up at your kitchen and prepare a nice meal. These are raw chickens. If your subconscious shows you this image, it is trying to get the message to you that you have to put in the work to turn your potential into achievements, into success, into a form that you desire. We all have raw potential. We all have the ability to start fresh and to make something out of ourselves. And it doesn't matter whether you are 20 years old, 40 years old, or even 60 years old. It's never too late because there's always an area of your life that could stand some improvement. Raw chickens represent potential because the heavy work has already been done for you. Somebody has already grown that animal, well, in this case, that dead animal, from a chick, which hatched from an egg. It requires a long series of processes to properly feed and grow. Now, all you need to do is to decide what you're going to do with that dressed chicken. Are you going to make chicken parmesan, chicken pad thai, fried chicken? Which type of fried chicken? Southern fried chicken or KFC style? Maybe you're thinking of Chinese fried rice chicken. The key here is to stop looking at that raw chicken as just this slab of meat on a flat plane. You have to apply your imagination to it. And your imagination must be driven by motivation and purpose for that raw potential to turn into something that you desire. And sadly, a lot of us prefer to be passive. We prefer uh, for life to play out in front of us and all the major decisions made by somebody else. And we would rather just click the fast forward button of our lives and get to the good stuff. I'm talking about getting the diploma, shaking the hand of your future boss because you just passed the interview, or moving in with your life partner. We can't be bothered with the process, with its twists and turns and possible disappointments. We can't be bothered with the long waiting process, with its ups and downs. The same way we can't be bothered with looking at that raw chicken in front of us with all its potential, with all the different ways we could go to produce a wide range of dishes. We'd rather just have the dish that we desire served to us. That is not reality. Your subconscious is telling you that your attitude, or at least either it's a developing attitude or some sort of idea that you hang on to, or maybe a mental habit, is holding you back from achieving great things with your life. It's definitely holding you back from being a more fulfilled and happy person. What does it mean to dream of hunting chicken? When you see yourself hunting chicken in your dreams, and it's taking a long time to flush them out of the bush, or you can't even find them, this indicates that you are going through some sort of struggle. If you're trying to find a job, then the struggle is easy to spot. You're having a tough time. This part is easy. But if you are employed or you have a business and money is not an issue, the interpretation of this dream becomes a little bit trickier because you have to be more self-aware as to where you're lacking. Even if you're in a relationship, there's something lacking. And the part of the hunt really depends on your direction and where you search. This is what makes it frustrating because it's not black and white. It's not served up to you. You have to rely on your senses. In many cases, you have to lean on your instincts and intuition. Your subconscious is telling you that there is a part of you that is feeling incomplete. You're searching for something. You're lacking something, and it's a good idea to practice meditation, mindfulness, or journaling, or use some sort of practical approach to be more self aware and do a self audit so you can get a full spiritual look at where you are, what possibly may be missing, and what you can do about it. What does it mean to dream of eating a live chicken? As gruesome as this dream image may be, this is an indication from your subconscious to live more fully. A lot of people, believe it or not, are living their lives like robots. Not only did their parents tell them what they should be doing or what kind of lifestyle they should pursue, but they robotically or mindlessly bought into that. Your subconscious is telling you never to assume anything, never to do things out of obligation. Whatever it is that you do in any area of your life must make sense as far as your values and priorities go. You have to fully engage with all areas of your life. Otherwise, you're just basically trying to suck the lifeblood out of somebody else's dream. You're basically a vampire. And when you eat a live chicken, there's going to be a lot of blood involved, as well as struggle. And it's no surprise that when people try to live other people's lives or become an extension of other people's failed hopes and dreams, they don't have a good time. They think that they are doing the other person a favor. But what about them? What makes sense to them? And for a lot of people, they just try to make peace with this by saying, well, I'll get used to it. That may be true. You may grow to love whatever it is that you do, but is that real love in the big scheme of things? So don't be afraid to challenge whatever it is that you assume is right, is set in place, or is programmatic in your life. Make sure that the life that you live is the life that you actually desire, the life that you actually want for yourself. But for you to do this, you have to be clear as to what your values are. You have to be clear as to what you're about. And you have to be fully aware of how you are going about living your life. All of these fit together. All of these make up your identity. What does it mean to dream of killing chickens? When you kill chickens in your dream, you can use a wide range of methods. There are gas methods. They're quick, they're efficient, and they're usually not very toxic. They're not toxic at all. There's also the way chickens are processed in most slaughterhouses. Chickens are stunned and their heads are lopped off. It's gruesome, and if the machine is not calibrated correctly, it can actually cause a tremendous amount of pain before the chicken is killed. Process is important. And when your subconscious is showing you actively killing a chicken, your undefined consciousness, or the part of your consciousness that you are not fully aware of or fully control, is trying to wake you up to a reality that life is made up of our hopes and dreams, stuff that we can readily identify, stuff that makes us feel good, but also the unpleasant stuff. Did you know that for you to enjoy a plate of tasty chicken, a lot of shit is involved. I'm not just talking about the amount of excrement that chick has to pump out until it grows to a full size chicken. That shit cannot be denied. That's real shit. I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about the manure that is laid down in the earth to fertilize the corn that is then harvested and fed to the chicken that you're growing and then ultimately eat. In other words, there's a cycle of life. It's easy for us to get excited when we see the final product, the graduation, the wedding, the promotion, the corner office, the amazing kids. But we don't see that there is a lot of unpleasant elements in the picture to make that happen. Just like shit, manure, feces, or whatever you want to call it, is needed for plants to grow and for those plants to be eaten by livestock and for that livestock to be harvested. It's all part of a cycle. And your subconscious is showing you that you need to be aware of this cycle and be ready for the unpleasant part, for the part that stinks, for the part that is heavy, for the part that involves you getting your hands dirty. And by finding your joy in those parts, you speed up the process as well as deepen your appreciation for the parts that you already enjoy. I hope you can see how this works. This is the real circle of life. It involves nasty stuff. It involves things that we'd rather avoid and not think about. But the truth is, by becoming aware of this internal process and allowing yourself to be comfortable that you have to go through all of these and handle these, you make things better for yourself all around. What does it mean to dream of running chickens? Running chickens usually involve chaos, confusion. They symbolize being a sense of being lost and overwhelmed. As I have repeatedly mentioned, chickens on a deep symbolic level mean processes. We're talking life processes here. And when you see running chickens in your dream, you are you are impressed by the amount of speed they have and the many different directions they scatter. This is why eh, chicken farmers harvest their chickens or gather their chickens at night when they're roosting. That's when the chickens don't run away. But if you are trying to gather your chickens in the middle of the day, good luck. They will scatter in all directions. When you see this in your night vision, your subconscious is trying to let you know that the way you're doing things, the way you're handling big issues in your life isn't working out because things spiral quickly out of your control. You're either doing things at the wrong time or in the wrong sequence, or you're trying to do too many things at once. Whatever the case may be, you're having a tough time because you're doing it wrong. And the way to get out from under this problem is to first set aside your ego. Say to yourself, I am wrong, and you mean it. It's not working out. A lot of us continue to struggle unnecessarily because we don't go through that step. We don't separate our ego from what we're doing. We're thinking to ourselves, I have it all figured out, and it's just a matter of time until I nail everything down and I will get the result that I get. So you continue to struggle for yet another day unnecessarily. Admit that you are wrong. And then start thinking procedurally. Break things down. Accept the fact that you can't handle too many things at once. And when you're able to do this systematically and methodically, everything will start to line up, everything will start to make sense. But it requires humility, it requires getting over yourself. And unfortunately, for too many people, this is too much to ask for. What does it mean to receive live chickens? If you see yourself being in a farm and somebody is giving you a live chicken, or you're in your backyard and somebody has delivered live chickens, your subconscious is trying to talk to you in terms of your tendency to be lazy. All of us are lazy to a certain degree. But the most common form of laziness is fear. We don't want to break or change whatever it is we're doing because we're afraid that alternatives might lead to worse results. So we feel stuck. We stick to what we think works, but seriously, it barely works. You know it's less than optimal, but you can't be bothered with alternatives because you feel that the only time you would really want to change is when your back is against the wall and there's no other option. Don't wait for things to degenerate to that level. When you see yourself in your dream in the in a position of receiving live chickens, receive them with gladness. Get excited about the process because there's this new process that is trying to that the universe is trying to insert into your life. Instead of seeing it as a threat, instead of kicking the can down the road and procrastinating, open up to it, embrace it. Know that you will stumble, know that the first few times you will fail, but eventually you'll get the hang of it. This is how you overcome emotional and spiritual laziness. You confront it and you confront it head on. You look at it straight in the eyes and refuse to be intimidated.